Hello Internet! Gino, aka That Pinguino, here again with another deep look. This time I'm going to be taking a look at the swapper. And the topic of discussion today is going to be consciousness, the soul, and the idea of individuality. Yeah, a little bit heavy, I know, but this game actually really warrants that discussion. And to really understand why, I'm first going to have to explain how the swapper device works. So this is a puzzle game whose central mechanic is creating clones and jumping to them. Swapping. Now, this mechanic seemingly just allows you to create clones with no consequence for their life. See, every time a clone dies, I just gain an additional clone, and I can create another copy and jump to it. And as long as the main clone stays alive, it doesn't really matter what happens to any of the other clones. So they just keep falling and dying at the bottom of this pit. However, spoilers, at the end of the swapper, you find out that the character you're playing as, this astronaut, is actually a clone of another astronaut that happened aboard this ship where you find the device. So you're actually playing as one of these clones set free from the control of the swapper device. And you became your own individual character with personality, whose life mattered. And that's kind of crazy that this puzzle game, essentially every time I do this, I'm killing a potential unique human being. And at first glance, this game just seems like a pretty ordinary puzzle game. But it turns out that every one of these swaps is crushing a potential individual. Now, on top of all of that, you've also got the idea of what does this beam of light actually do. Every time I swap, I shoot that beam of light, and I jump into whichever clone is in front of me. Now, you would think, because the device is called the swapper, that it lets you swap consciousness with the individual you're targeting. So in this case, I'm always going to be swapping with my own clones. However, later on in the game, you can use that swap to swap with characters that are unique individuals, that are actual people with their own minds and wants and desires. And when you swap with them, you actually don't just, you see that they don't just, you don't swap with them. Another character actually swaps with two other minds. And the result is not one person absorbing the other two. It is all three of the minds fusing together to become one unified consciousness. And that kind of works because in this game there's these stones here called watchers, each with their own unique personalities, but originally were connected together because they're stones. They were mined out of this planet. So each of these stones has its own personality because it was physically separated from other consciousnesses. However, when put together, they form one giant super consciousness. And that's kind of what the swapper does. It allows you to transmit your consciousness into another vessel and share all of your knowledge and ideas with that vessel. So when you think of a soul, see, that main clone matters. When you transmit your soul, when you think of a soul, you think of a unique person, what makes you you, immutable, intransitive. Maybe it's created by a divinity of some kind. In the swapper, the soul of this clone seems to have just kind of
How did you get back here?
come from that person right there.
Why are you following me? Look, it's too late now to apologize. Just let me go.
It came from that person. And this this clone's soul just kind of came spontaneously from the right physical conditions, which is very, very different from the idea of a divinely created soul. I can go ahead and run up on this. Also, the idea that multiple bodies or multiple consciousnesses can occupy the same body and share thoughts. Yeah, some of the Watchers have some really messed up thoughts. Turns out they don't like being separated from the main mind quite so much. The idea of multiple bodies, or multiple minds sharing one body and losing their individuality is very different. Very unique, very cool.
Please respect other crew members in the communal areas by keeping noise to a reasonable level.
Thanks, computer. Just the atmosphere in this game is so great. And that's just really what's made me think about the Swapper so much, is just these are tough topics to approach. A lot of people have very conflicting ideas about consciousness and soul and individuality, what makes you you. The final choice in this game is basically to choose whether you want to remain a unique individual and die, or swap your mind into another mind and live, and whether that's worth doing at all. And just it's ostensibly an indie puzzle game, and it's got all these concepts going on in it. It just does such a good job, and all these puzzles actually require thought, so it kind of messes with my ability to talk and play at the same time.
You're still here. I suppose it's answers you want. Well, everybody wants answers, and I don't have any. They do.
And as you can see, much of this game's story is pretty obtuse, so you might not have, even if you played this game, you might not have noticed all of these themes going on. But yeah, the Swapper has some really unique things to say about what makes a person. It seems to be biology mostly, but also once you have your own unique thought processes, they make up you. And if you swap them into another body or share them with another mind, eventually the unique parts of your own thoughts cease to be unique. They start to blend and mingle with whatever mind you're sharing it with. You see a character try to swap with one of the Watchers and join their network, and in doing so they completely lose themselves. And that's kind of what you're faced with in the very end of the game. And all this comes from, well, if the mechanics came first or the story came first, I'm not sure. But all of this is shown in these very simple mechanics. Create clones, jump into clones. And from these two functions, you get all these ramifications about what it means to be a person, what it means to be a unique individual. Where does consciousness come from? Is it created by when you're born? Is it created just by neural pathways happening to exist in the world, and then your consciousness comes from that? Are you wholly formed when you're born, or not?
Did the Watchers take it? No, mindless. How could they?
They're anything but mindless. And this game is anything but mindless. So, if you haven't played the Swapper, I hope you give it a try. I might have spoiled a bunch of stuff, but if you have played it, I hope you gain a little bit of a new appreciation for what's going on in this game. And if you like this video, let me know. Maybe I'll cover some other heavy topics. If you didn't like it, that's valuable feedback as well. Talking about something like this without a wingman is a lot more difficult. I was spoiled by having Rothgar on so many of these videos in a row, but hey, this game's awesome. I'm gonna keep making these videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.